The diplomatic vessel Serenity glided through Earth's atmosphere, its pearlescent hull catching the morning sunlight as it descended through wisps of cloud. Inside the command center, Ambassador Chloral 7 adjusted his ceremonial sash for the 5th time in as many minutes. "Our scans confirm we're approaching the designated landing coordinates," the navigation officer reported. "Atmospheric composition within acceptable parameters. Local technology detecting us as expected." Chloral 7 nodded, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of nervous anticipation among his species. After centuries of observation and debate, the Galactic Confederation had finally deemed Earth ready for first contact. The evidence had been compelling. Advancing technology, decreasing armed conflicts, and promising environmental restoration efforts. "Begin final approach," he ordered. "Deactivate cloaking systems and broadcast the greeting sequence on all frequencies." The Serenity shimmered into visibility as it descended toward what their intelligence suggested was a sparsely populated region, perfect for a discreet first meeting with Earth's united governmental representatives. The ship's exterior speakers prepared to broadcast the carefully crafted message of peace in 27 human languages. No one aboard was prepared for what happened next. The first explosion rocked the ship violently, sending crew members tumbling across the deck. Warning lights flashed across control panels. "We're under attack," shouted the security chief. "Multiple projectiles incoming." Through the view screen, Chloral 7 watched in horror as armored vehicles moved across the landscape below. Flying machines, primitive but clearly military in design, screamed overhead. Humans in combat gear fired weapons at targets, and in several cases, directly at the Serenity. "Evasive maneuvers," Chloral 7 commanded, his ceremonial sash now askew. "Shields to maximum." The ship banked sharply, narrowly avoiding another barrage of artillery. Their peaceful mission had somehow landed them in the middle of what could only be described as a war zone. "Our intelligence indicated this region was uninhabited wilderness," the first officer said, her voice quavering. There was no indication of military activity. Another explosion rocked the ship. On the view screen, Chloral 7 watched a line of tanks advancing across the field, their turrets tracking the Serenity's position. "Pull back to orbit immediately," he ordered. "We need to reassess everything we thought we knew about this species." As the ship accelerated upward, breaking through clouds and returning to the safety of space, the command center fell into stunned silence. Their decades of preparation, the carefully crafted first contact protocols, all rendered useless in minutes. In his private chamber, Chloral 7 composed an emergency transmission to Confederation headquarters. His hands trembled as he recorded. "First contact attempt with Earth has failed catastrophically. Our intelligence was fundamentally flawed. Earth is not the developing paradise we expected. The planet appears to be in a state of active warfare, with military technology far more advanced than our assessments indicated. The humans were immediately hostile, deploying weapons against our vessel without provocation or attempted communication. I strongly recommend immediate quarantine protocols and a complete reevaluation of the Earth situation. These beings are not ready for peaceful integration into the Confederation. They may never be." He ended the transmission and stared out at the blue planet below. What kind of species, he wondered, would create such beautiful art and music while simultaneously developing so many ways to destroy themselves? Dr. Vrini hunched over her research terminal, the soft blue glow illuminating her delicate features as data streams flickered across multiple screens. As the Confederation's senior xenoanthropologist, she had been tasked with conducting a comprehensive analysis of human behavior following the disastrous first contact attempt. "Computer, replay observation sequence Delta 7, she instructed, rubbing her eyes wearily. She had been analyzing Earth transmissions for 72 hours straight. The main screen displayed humans in what appeared to be a confined arena, hurling themselves at each other, while chasing a small spherical object. The crowd surrounding them roared with each collision. "Fascinating," she murmured, taking notes. They voluntarily participate in ritualized combat for entertainment purposes. Her assistant, junior researcher Kelb, approached with a fresh data crystal. "Doctor, the new information you requested has arrived. It contains historical records spanning the last 300 Earth years." Dr. Vrini inserted the crystal into her terminal. The screens filled with images that made her recoil, warfare utilizing increasingly sophisticated weapons, training exercises, combat sports, and survival competitions. "Their entire history is saturated with conflict," she whispered. "Look at this. They deliberately expose themselves to extreme environmental conditions with minimal protection." The screen showed humans climbing ice-covered mountains, trekking across scorching deserts, and deliberately submersing themselves in freezing water. "And this," she continued, pointing to another screen. "They intentionally consume substances that trigger pain responses in their sensory organs. They call it spicy food and appear to enjoy the experience." Kelb's expression shifted from scientific curiosity to growing alarm. "Is it possible we encountered a genuinely unique evolutionary path? A species that developed sentience on what our standards would classify as a death world?" Dr. Vrini nodded slowly. "Their planet contains environmental hazards that would be fatal to most Confederation species. Extreme temperature variations, high radiation levels, dangerous wildlife, unpredictable weather patterns, and tectonic instability. Rather than developing technology to create stable environments, they adapted themselves to endure these conditions." She pulled up medical data smuggled from Earth's information networks. "Their physical resilience is remarkable. They can survive injuries that would be fatal to most species, endure radiation levels considered hazardous, and function effectively with minimal rest or sustenance when necessary." The weight of her discovery settled heavily on her shoulders. The Confederation had encountered over 300 sentient species, all evolving on worlds with relatively stable conditions. None had faced the evolutionary pressures that shaped humanity. "We must present these findings to the Council immediately," she said, organizing her research into a formal report. "Humans aren't merely aggressive. They're the product of an evolutionary crucible, unlike anything in our records." 3 days later, Dr. Vrini stood before the Confederation Council, the assembled representatives from hundreds of worlds watching intently as she delivered her conclusion. "Distinguished representatives, my analysis is complete," she announced, her voice steady despite her trepidation. "The humans of Earth represent an unprecedented evolutionary category. They did not merely develop on a challenging world. They thrived there. What we perceive as aggression is actually extraordinary adaptability. What we see as violence is their method of preparation for survival." She paused, allowing her final assessment to appear on every screen in the chamber. "Earth is not simply another world. By our scientific classification standards, it is a death world, and its inhabitants have evolved accordingly." The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Parliament hummed with nervous energy. Representatives from hundreds of worlds occupied the tiered seating, their diverse physiologies a testament to the Confederation's inclusive nature. Holographic displays hovered throughout the chamber, cycling through images of Earth, its cities, militaries, and most concerning of all, its inhabitants engaged in what Dr. Vrini had termed voluntary hardship activities. High Chancellor Zix rose from the central podium, his iridescent tentacles rippling with agitation. Though his species communicated primarily through color changes, he had adopted verbal speech for official proceedings. "Esteemed colleagues," he began, his voice amplified throughout the chamber. "We face an unprecedented situation. The humans of Earth represent a category of sentient life we have never encountered, beings evolved under conditions most of us would consider unbearable." The displays shifted to footage obtained from Earth's data networks. Humans participating in combat training, endurance competitions, and survival expeditions. "The evidence compiled by our Xenoanthropology division is concerning," Zix continued. "These beings have spent their entire evolutionary history fighting against their environment, against predators, and most disturbingly, against each other. Their entertainment, their sports, Even their celebratory rituals involve simulated combat. Murmurs rippled through the assembly as representatives conferred with their delegations. Security Minister Drell, a methane-breathing entity encased in a specialized environmental suit, activated his speaking beacon. The conclusion is obvious. Drell's mechanical voice translator proclaimed, "We must implement immediate containment protocols." A civilizational quarantine field surrounding their solar system would prevent them from spreading outward while we determine if they can ever be safely integrated. Several representatives signaled their agreement, but Ambassador Tsell rose from her seat, her crystalline form catching the chamber's lighting in prismatic patterns. "Distinguished colleagues," she began, her resonant voice cutting through the murmurs, "I urge caution before we condemn an entire species. Yes, humans evolved in challenging circumstances, but consider what this reveals about their potential." She gestured, and the displays changed to show human medical personnel treating injuries, rescue teams responding to natural disasters, and scientific expeditions venturing into extreme environments. Their harshness has forged remarkable adaptability. Cell continued, "While we perceive their martial tendencies as threatening, we might instead recognize them as a species uniquely equipped to face challenges that would overwhelm our more comfortable civilizations." Security Minister Drell's environmental suit flickered with patterns expressing dismissal. A charming sentiment. Ambassador, but naive. Their history is a continuous sequence of conflicts. If they bring such tendencies into interstellar society, then perhaps they might teach us something about resilience. Cell interrupted. "Our Confederation has known peace for so long that we have forgotten how to face true adversity. Before condemning humanity, we should understand what shaped them." The debate continued for hours, positions polarizing between immediate containment and cautious observation. Unaware of the discussion determining their galactic future, humans continued their daily lives. Near the edge of the solar system, the research vessel Horizon adjusted its course toward an unusual energy signature detected near Neptune's orbit. Captain Sarah Chen squinted at the readings on her console. "Navigation, confirm those coordinates," she ordered. "Whatever's generating that pattern, it's definitely not natural, and definitely not one of ours." The research vessel Horizon drifted silently through Neptune's outer orbit, its engines reduced to minimal power as Captain Sarah Chen studied the holographic display of the anomaly. From a distance, it appeared to be nothing more than an unusually shaped asteroid, but the energy readings defied natural explanation. "Approach vector calculated," Lieutenant Rodriguez reported from the navigation console. "Ready to proceed on your command, Captain." Chen nodded, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Take us in slowly. Maintain passive scanning only. If that thing is artificial, I don't want to trigger any defensive systems." The Horizon glided forward, the mysterious object growing larger on their view screens. Its surface appeared metallic, with geometric patterns that couldn't possibly be natural formations. "That's definitely not a rock," Chen muttered. "And it's not one of ours, either." Her heart raced as the implications settled in. After centuries of searching the stars, humanity might have finally found evidence of extraterrestrial intelligence, not from a distant signal, but right at the edge of their own solar system. "I'm detecting what appears to be a docking mechanism," Rodriguez said, his voice barely containing his excitement. It's compatible with our airlock systems. The odds of that being coincidental are astronomically small." Chen made her decision. "Prepare for docking procedures. Alert the science team and have them ready for potential first contact protocols. Security team on standby, but weapons secured. We're not making humanity's first impression an aggressive one." The Horizon eased alongside the alien structure, magnetic clamps engaging with surprising compatibility. The airlock sealed with a satisfying hiss, pressure equalizing almost immediately. "Atmospheric analysis indicates breathable composition," the environmental officer reported. "Temperature and gravity within human comfortable parameters." Chen led the small exploration team through the airlock. The interior corridor was dimly lit with soft blue illumination that brightened as they advanced. The architecture was elegant and flowing, unlike the utilitarian design of human spacecraft. "It's like it was designed for us," whispered Dr. Patel, the xenobiologist, or at least for beings very similar to humans. They reached what appeared to be a control center, consoles arranged in a semicircle around a central holographic projector. Everything was powered down but intact, not abandoned, but rather in standby mode. Rodriguez examined one of the consoles. "This interface is remarkably intuitive. I think this might be." He pressed a sequence of illuminated symbols. The chamber suddenly blazed with light as systems activated. The holographic projector flared to life, displaying what appeared to be a star map of the solar system. Simultaneously, the wall behind it shimmered and became transparent, revealing an observation deck occupied by several non-human entities who appeared just as startled as the humans. 4 aliens with silvery skin and large, multifaceted eyes stared at the human team in apparent shock. For a moment, nobody moved. Chen stepped forward, hand extended in what humans recognized as a universal greeting gesture. "We come in peace," she said, knowing they likely wouldn't understand her words, but hoping her tone would convey peaceful intent. The aliens recoiled at her approach, one of them activating a control panel. Alarm signals blared throughout the station. The floor beneath the human team glowed, and Chen felt a strange tingling sensation throughout her body. "Captain, I think we're being..." Rodriguez began, but never finished his sentence. The humans vanished in a flash of light. Their molecules disassembled and transmitted across space to a destination far beyond their solar system. The first humans to unwittingly travel to the heart of the Galactic Confederation. Captain Chen's consciousness reassembled piece by piece, like scattered fragments slowly coalescing. She opened her eyes to find herself in a chamber unlike anything she'd ever seen. Walls of shifting opalescent material that seemed almost alive. Furniture designed for bodies with proportions subtly different from human anatomy. "Rodriguez? Patel? Anyone?" she called out, relieved when she heard groans from her crew members regaining consciousness nearby. "I think we've been transported," Rodriguez said, examining their surroundings with professional curiosity rather than fear. "The technology required for that kind of matter transmission is centuries beyond our capabilities." A section of the wall rippled and parted, revealing 2 alien beings, one with silvery skin like those they'd encountered at the outpost, another with a crystalline form that refracted light in dazzling patterns. Both wore what appeared to be translator devices. "You are secure. No harm intended," the crystalline being said, its speech oddly cadenced but comprehensible. "We are surprised. No contact protocol initiated. Why hostile approach?" Chen stood carefully, making slow, deliberate movements. "There was no hostile intent. We discovered your outpost, and were exploring. Our gesture of extended hand is a peaceful greeting among our kind." The aliens exchanged looks that even across species barriers clearly communicated confusion. "Interesting deception," the silver-skinned alien responded. "Your species trains constantly for warfare. Your greeting resembles combat stance. Logic suggests infiltration attempt." Understanding dawned on Chen. These beings had been observing Earth from afar and had completely misinterpreted human behavior. "You've been watching us," she said, "but you've misunderstood what you've seen. Yes, some humans train for combat, but that's not our primary activity or purpose." Before the conversation could continue, alarms blared throughout the facility. The crystalline being received a communication through a device embedded in its form. "Central power core instability," it announced. "Danger level critical. Evacuation protocols initiated." The silver alien gestured, and a wall display activated, showing schematics of a massive space station, apparently where they were currently located. A pulsing red indicator marked what appeared to be an engineering section, with diagnostic information scrolling rapidly. Rodriguez stepped forward, studying the display with intense focus. "Captain, their cooling system is failing. That's a quantum cascade reaction forming, similar to the experimental reactor designs we've been developing, but exponentially more powerful. Without hesitation, he addressed the aliens. I understand your technology. The containment field is collapsing because your phase inverters are misaligned. I can help. The aliens hesitated, clearly torn between suspicion of the humans and the urgent crisis unfolding. If that reactor goes critical, everyone on this station dies, Chen said simply. Let us help. After a moment's deliberation, the crystalline being made a decision. Follow. Quickly. They raced through corridors filled with panicked aliens of diverse physiologies, all evacuating toward distant sections of the station. The engineering chamber was chaos. Alien technicians working frantically on systems that were emitting ominous energy patterns. Rodriguez immediately grasped the situation. Without waiting for permission, he moved to a control interface, intuiting its function through principles of universal engineering logic. The system needs manual realignment, he explained, hands already working across the alien controls with surprising dexterity. The automated safeguards are locked in a feedback loop. As the aliens watched in amazement, the human engineer, a member of the species they had deemed too dangerous for contact, risked his life to save beings he'd met mere minutes ago. The Confederation diplomatic vessel emerged from faster-than-light travel just beyond Earth's moon, its advanced cloaking systems rendering it invisible to human detection technology. Inside, Ambassador Coral 7 prepared for what might be the most challenging diplomatic mission of his career, initiating formal contact with a species whose first impression had been disastrous. The human leadership has agreed to our communication parameters, his aide reported. They've arranged a meeting at their International Diplomatic Center in Wellington. Security protocols are in place. Coral 7 nodded, his unease evident in the muted colors pulsing across his skin. And they understand we have their people, that this meeting is partly to negotiate their safe return. Yes, Ambassador, though our translators indicate their response was surprisingly measured. They seem more interested in peaceful dialogue than demanding immediate repatriation. This contradicted everything they had concluded about human behavior. Coral 7 had expected threats, perhaps even attempted military action upon learning their exploratory team had been taken. Instead, Earth's hastily assembled international response team had been diplomatic, even welcoming. The ship descended through Earth's atmosphere under cover of night, landing at the designated coordinates. A small reception committee waited. Just 5 humans, unarmed, standing calmly beneath the stars. Coral 7 stepped cautiously from the vessel, flanked by his security team. A human female stepped forward, her posture formal, but not threatening. Ambassador, welcome to Earth. I am Dr. Amara Okafor, appointed by the United Nations as interim Xenodiplomatic Liaison. We are honored by your presence. The translation software rendered her words perfectly, but Coral 7 remained wary. This politeness didn't align with their understanding of human nature. Your reception is unexpected, he admitted. Our observations suggested your species would react defensively to our arrival. Dr. Okafor smiled. Perhaps we should discuss those observations. We've arranged a tour to help you understand us better, if you're willing. The next 3 days transformed everything the Confederation thought it knew about humanity. The aliens were escorted to hospitals where humans worked tirelessly to extend the lives of their sick and injured. They visited universities where knowledge was pursued for its own sake. They observed conservation efforts to protect other species. Your contradictions are difficult to reconcile, Coral 7 told Dr. Okafor as they watched children playing in a park. You train for war yet devote enormous resources to healing. You compete fiercely yet collaborate on global challenges. Both aspects are essential to who we are, she explained. Our world shaped us to be adaptable. Sometimes that means fighting, sometimes cooperating. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication. A severe earthquake had struck Indonesia, causing widespread devastation. Coral 7 watched in fascination as humans transformed before his eyes. Governments that had been political adversaries immediately offered aid. Civilian volunteers mobilized, and resources flowed across traditional boundaries. In the diplomatic center's operations room, the aliens observed as nations coordinated rescue efforts with a unity and purpose that seemed at odds with their fragmented political system. "Now you see us as we truly are," Dr. Okafor said quietly. "When faced with a common threat, human differences fade. The same determination you feared as aggression becomes our greatest strength in crisis." Ambassador Coral Seven's 4 eyes blinked in rapid succession, a sign of profound realization among his kind. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we have been asking the wrong questions about your species all along." The newly formed Earth Interspecies Relations Council convened in an underground facility repurposed from a former military bunker. Representatives from 27 nations sat alongside the Confederation delegation, the contrast between human diversity and alien physiology stark under the conference room lights. "Our guests remain concerned about humanity's capacity for aggression," Dr. Okafor explained to the assembled officials. "Despite our diplomatic progress, the Galactic Parliament is still debating whether Earth should be quarantined." General Wang, the Chinese military representative, leaned forward. "Perhaps words alone cannot address their concerns. We propose a demonstration." 3 days later, Ambassador Etzel and a delegation of senior Confederation officials stood on an observation platform overlooking a vast training ground. Military units from traditionally adversarial nations, the United States, Russia, China, Iran, and others, had assembled in a display unprecedented in human history. "Rather than tell you about human capabilities, we will show you," General Huang explained. "Each military unit before you represents excellence in different tactical specialties. Under normal circumstances, they would never train together." Ambassador Etzel's crystalline form shifted in patterns indicating curiosity. "You are demonstrating military prowess to alleviate our concerns about your warlike tendencies. This seems counterintuitive." Dr. Okafor smiled. "Please watch carefully. What you're about to witness isn't about warfare at all." The exercise began with a display of precision and coordination. Aircraft from different nations executing complex maneuvers in tight formation. Ground forces navigating obstacle courses with remarkable efficiency. Naval vessels demonstrating advanced communication protocols. "Impressive discipline," noted a Confederation military observer. "But this confirms our assessment of their combat potential." Before the aliens could further analyze the demonstration, an urgent communication interrupted the proceedings. A civilian passenger vessel had struck a submerged reef 20 kilometers offshore. With over 300 souls aboard and rapidly taking on water, it would sink within the hour. Without hesitation, General Wang raised his hand. "Exercise terminated. Initiate real-world rescue Operation Alpha." The transformation was immediate and astonishing. Combat aircraft became search platforms, deploying sensors designed for battlefield awareness to locate survivors. Tactical vessels redirected to rescue operations, their crews shifting seamlessly from military precision to humanitarian focus. Special Forces units prepared underwater rescue equipment, their training for covered operations perfectly adaptable to extracting passengers from submerged compartments. The Confederation delegates watched in stunned silence as competitors became collaborators within seconds. Nations that had historically distrusted each other coordinated flawlessly, sharing resources and personnel without hesitation. "This is what we wanted you to understand," Dr. Okafor explained as they observed the rescue unfold. "The same skills that make humans formidable in conflict make us exceptional in crisis. Our adaptability isn't a design flaw. It's our greatest strength." From the command center, they watched as the first survivors were brought to safety, frightened but alive thanks to the rapid, coordinated response of forces that, in another context, might have been adversaries. Ambassador Etzel turned to her colleagues, her crystalline structure glowing with what the humans had learned to recognize as profound realization. "Now I understand," she said quietly. "What we perceived as inherent aggression is actually unparalleled adaptability. These aren't mindless warriors. They're problem solvers who apply the same intensity to saving lives that they would to protecting them." As night fell, the rescue operation continued under powerful lights. The former military exercise transformed into a testament to humanity's true nature, not defined by conflict, but by how they responded when lives hung in the balance. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Parliament fell silent as Ambassador Tsel concluded her presentation. The extensive holographic displays surrounding the assembled representatives showed images from Earth, hospitals and battlefields, conservation efforts and competitive sports, disaster responses and military training. Distinguished colleagues, Tsel's resonant voice carried throughout the chamber. We have fundamentally misunderstood Earth and its people. What we perceived as inherent aggression is actually unparalleled adaptability. The humans don't seek conflict. They've simply evolved to face challenges that would destroy most species. High Chancellor Zix, who had previously advocated for Earth's quarantine, rose from his central podium. His tentacles, once agitated at the mention of humans, now moved in patterns indicating deep contemplation. Ambassador Tsel's findings are compelling, he acknowledged. The rescue operation witnessed by our delegation demonstrated qualities we had not anticipated in the human species. Security Minister Drell activated his speaking beacon, his environmental suit displaying patterns of skepticism. One dramatic demonstration does not negate centuries of warfare. Their history is the product of their world. Tsel interrupted. A world that forced them to develop resilience beyond anything our comfortable civilizations required. Consider what such adaptability might offer our confederation. The debate continued for hours, but the tone had shifted dramatically. Captain Chen and her crew, now returned to Earth, but participating via transmission, observed the proceedings with Dr. Okafor. They're actually taking us seriously now, Rodriguez noted with surprise. Dr. Okafor nodded. They're beginning to see that the very traits they feared might be exactly what they need. After deliberation, Chancellor Zix announced the Parliament's decision. The Galactic Confederation hereby extends an invitation to Earth, not as a standard member, but as a specialized consultant civilization, particularly for crisis management and adaptation strategies. The formal declaration continued. The traits we initially misinterpreted as dangerous now appear to be unique evolutionary advantages that may benefit our entire community. Our peaceful confederation has known stability for so long that we have forgotten how to face true adversity. 3 months later, a joint human-alien delegation prepared for their first mission aboard the Confederation vessel Resilience. Captain Chen stood on the bridge beside Ambassador Tsel, surveying the star charts that displayed their destination. These regions have remained unexplored for centuries, Tsel explained. Conditions there exceed our normal environmental tolerances. We always considered them too hostile for investigation. Chen studied the data with interest. The radiation levels, temperature variations, and gravitational fluctuations are certainly challenging, but nothing humans haven't adapted to handle in space exploration. Precisely why you're here, Tsel replied, her crystalline form catching the starlight from the viewports. There are mysteries beyond our comfortable boundaries that we've never had the constitution to explore. With humanity joining us, perhaps it's time to venture into the truly unknown. As the Resilience prepared for departure, Dr. Okafor addressed the United Nations General Assembly back on Earth. What began as a misunderstanding has become an opportunity. The Confederation feared our adaptive traits until they realized those same traits make us uniquely valuable. Our challenging evolutionary past has prepared us for a future among the stars that no other species could navigate. The assembly chamber erupted in applause as screens displayed the Resilience departing Earth orbit, humanity's first official venture into the galactic community, not as conquerors or subjects, but as specialists in surviving the unsurvivable. From threat to asset, from quarantine to partnership, the species forged on a world of challenges had found its place among the stars.